All right, thank you. Good evening once again. Let me share my screen. First up. All right, so today we are going to, so this is basically the 15th day of our ongoing getting Oracle uh, fundamentals right series. Okay, so today we are going to discuss a few things on the application context. So there are a few things that I probably like to demonstrate to you, starting off with schema level privileges. And so that will give us a bit of an introduction to our main topic, which is the application context. And then about default, non-default rules. And then we talk about the application context and how that can be used in our applications and the various types of context application context that are there. And then also we will come across some uh, pre-built application context as well. So we'll just run through them as well. And there are various things that when it comes to application context. So I'm not going to talk right now about all these things, right? But what I thought was we will start off with the demonstration, and along the way, I will basically touch upon these areas as well. Or maybe even we can complete the full demonstration and then come back to these slides as well. Okay. So thanks for joining once again. So this is the first time we are starting the session at 8 o'clock. Hopefully, we will expect more more people to join, or at least for them to listen to what we have recorded. So let me just quickly get into my what do you call the command prompt. So I will share once again. Now I have a bit of a challenge here because I want to showcase two screens, but I am doubtful that I can share both of them at the same time. That's all right. So unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know. You might have to bear with me in switching from one window to another. Okay, right. So this is one of my screens where I can connect to SQL Plus sys at sorry, this has free PDB1 as is DBA. Okay, and so you can see that I'm running with 26 AI. Now, a few things that I wanted to showcase at the beginning. That is the okay. So I basically have a user created which I will showcase to you in the next the other window. That is a user called a PDB user called Diane, and then I'm going to use these two sessions in order to do my demonstrations. So let me begin with the privileges that we were talking about that I was touching initially about. So when it comes to privileges, as we all know, there are different types of privileges, system privileges, object privileges, and so on. And then our focus basically begins with the role privileges. So you you'd have actually come across these generic pre-built roles as well. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide two privileges or two roles here to the user GAN. So I will quickly grant, connect, and resource to GAN. Well, this is very common, right? Oop. Grant, create resource to
Can not create, it's a connect.
yeah. Yes, I'm sorry. grant connect and resource to GAN. Okay, so I've granted these two roles to GAN user. Now I don't want one of these roles to be active initially. So he will have the role available, but what I want him to do is, if he wants or if GAN wants a certain privileges to be executed within a particular role, so there could be roles granted within roles to a particular role as well. So what I want him to do is I will give him the initial role, which is probably the connect role, because it has the create session privilege, as you all know. So once this has been given, of course, he will be able to connect to the session. And then uh, if he wants, maybe for example, to create a table and so on, we will use the resource role. And one of these privileges will allow him to create tables accordingly. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is this. So I will set my role, sorry, alt user, GAN, and then we'll set. There are ways and means of providing default roles, but in this case, I'm going to just letting him have the connect role as his default role. So what happens here is that when we have given the default role, he will when Gayan logs in, he will be enjoying the connect role, but of course the resource role is also granted, but the privileges within the resource role may not be immediately available unless he makes it active. Okay, so fine. So let's getting some issues here. Alter user and default role connect. Okay. Okay. Here you go. So managed to give the connect role. I have made the connect role as Gayan's default role, but remember he has both default, sorry, connect and resource roles. Okay. So now I'm going to just switch from here to my other session, which is Gayan session. So let me just connect as Gayan user. SQL pass Gayan at free PDB1. All right. So show user will tell us that I'm connected as GAN. So how do we really know what are the available roles for my session? Select asterisk from session underscore roles. All right. So this is also an interesting view. So whenever you want to figure out what are your default roles, or what are your available roles rather, then you can see that currently this role is given, right? Okay. Now let's figure out this. I will do a select sys context. So I prefer to type this in capitals. It will be a bit more easy. Select sys context. Oops. Now I'm having a problem. That problem is unable to type my single quote. Okay, how can I fix that now? I have this problem in my laptop. It doesn't allow me to put the single quote on text. All right, so let me just try to type that single quote in another environment and see whether. Okay, let me just see whether I can copy it from another environment. Okay, so let me just. Okay, here you go. Got to copy this again. It's a bit of a hassle, but what to do? At times it works, at times it doesn't work. Okay, so let me now type resource here. Okay, now what did I do? This is somewhat kind of an introduction to our session, our main topic here as well. Now, what I used was I used as what do you call a, a function, right? Called syscontext. So from syscontext, we should be able to read content in our context, right? Now, we haven't really understood what exactly a context is, but you could see here there are two attributes that I'm passing, right? One, first one is basically the name of the context or application context. So this is a pre-built application context that we have in the database. And here we are passing the name of a role, right? So what is this context actually is? Sorry, what is this, this system session rows means? So it's actually a part of one of the pre-built application context. What it actually does is it stores, it's kind of a namespace, right? So this namespace will have attributes, and the attributes may have values also, right? So we'll explore this furthermore, but just for the moment, I wanted to just run through with you as well to give you kind of an idea about how we can query this application context using a function called syscontext. So if you want to retrieve values out from the application context, you use the function called syscontext, right? So currently you see that the resource role is set to false, right? Now, let me do one thing, and I try to create a table. Create table, table one. Let's give A as a number, right? So get an error saying insufficient privileges. So it cannot be true because I have the resource role. I have the connect role probably would have given me less privileges, but then resource role should have granted me with the select, sorry, create table privilege as well, but it is not there simply because although I have both the roles granted, I don't really have the resource role enabled. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to enable that role by using set role command. So I will do, okay, I have enabled the resource role. Okay, now let's first run this command to figure out whether it has been turned to true. Now you can see that this particular resource role has got activated, right? Another important thing to remember, if you now run select asterisk from session roles, right? As of now, the role which we had before, which is the connect role, has got disappeared, right? So as of now, what you are seeing as active roles are resource and so that now this one would have got inherited through a role granted to the resource role itself, because we did not grant this role separately. But the most important thing that you need to make a note is that the connect role has got disappeared, right? So it has been replaced by the resource. Now let's try to just carry out this create table statement once again. Okay. Now you can see that we can create the table. All right. Right. So this is fine. I'm just trying to clean up this drop table one, and then we'll purge it as well. Okay. So now that is done. Now another important thing which 26 AI gave us. Let me exit from here. I'm going to now switch back to my sys session. So you might, sorry about this switching, because I don't have a way of sharing the entire screen at once. Oops, sorry. Getting into the same one. So we just go back and then. All right. So this is the. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to revoke these two, that is connect and resource from. Obviously now a GAN doesn't have any role, no privileges at all, right? Now this 26 AI introduced this new role. So let me just grant that. Grant DB developer role to GAN. All right, fine. So this is the new privilege or new role that will give us all the necessary developer related privileges to carry out your work. All right. Okay. Now with this, he should be able to, or Gayan should be able to do his tasks as well. All right. Now let me quickly switch back to Gayan's session to showcase one thing. Okay. Oops. So back to Gayan. All right. So let me see whether I can connect with that privilege. Now my arrow key is also not functioning. That's all right. Let me just try again. Yeah. Okay. So SQL plus GAN at 3 PDB1. Okay. Oops. From that, so we granted this one. All right. DB developer role to GAN. Okay. Let me just try. PDB1. Did I give it to GAN? Yes. And oops. It says that it is lacking the create session, so we can explore what is actually being given inside the developer role. But for now, with the interest of time, I will quickly grant create session as well. Okay. So on the other window, you may not have seen that. So let me just come back with the syntax SQL plus and add P3 PDB1. Okay. All right. So I managed to get in. Now what I want to check here is, so if I do select strict from session roles. Okay, I have the role. Okay. I'll tell you the reason why I could not do that. Let me quickly go here. So you can't see the screen. So let me just quickly show you that as well, why it didn't work well. The reason had been, so I will revoke this privilege once again, create session, because developer role should have the create session privilege as well from Gayan. So here he's only has the DB developer role, right? That was what we have given, because other roles were revoked as well. Why this was not showing for Gayan is simply because we made the default role only as connect, right? So let me just do alt user Gayan default. I don't need to say all. I can just say, okay, this one only. Okay. Okay, now we'll switch back. Now you can see the create session is also got revoked, but I have the developer role granted to this user. So let me quickly come back to Gayan session. right? So exit and try to connect again. SQL plus bayonet pre-PDB1. Right. So I managed to do that. And if I run select asterisk from session underscore roles, I can now see the DB developer role as is been shown under session roles, and probably along with that, the rest of the roles that were granted to the same role itself. So we can grant roles to another role. So because of that, you could see additional roles are being shown here under session roles. All right. So that is that new thing, which is DB developer role that will make our lives easy. Right. Now, another important thing that I want to highlight. Now, this database has select asterisk from HR.employee. Okay, so we have a view. Sorry, I'm sorry. We have a table called employees, I think. Okay, so it's employees. Oops. So you don't see this table called HR.employees because the table is owned by HR. So the DB developer role doesn't allow us to access somebody else's schema. All right. So that doesn't allow you to do that because that will be too risky. So now, therefore, it is not possible. All right. Now, knowing that we can't access this table, right, be it employee or employees, still the table is not visible to this user. All right. So now what the sys user does is, let me quickly switch there as well. What does the sys user, sorry, coming back to the same screen. So what would the sys user do? All right. Now what he does is he will run. Okay, now this is another challenge that we have. Now each time if you are to give a select privilege or an insert privilege or whatever, right, privilege within this table, each time when a table is created, we have to explicitly give him this privilege, right? Or if you are maintaining at a role level, sorry, at a role level, then we still have to give the select privilege or insert or delete or whatever the privilege to that role on that newly created table as well. Now this is very tedious job because we never know when the tables are getting added, and there could be many tables that are getting added, and each time this table a new table is getting introduced, then we have challenges in sense it's a very repetitive and it will be very difficult task as well. All right, so understanding that, Oracle has come up with a new privilege type. Let me show you that. So as select user, what he does is, sorry, as sys user, he gives grant select any table on schema HR to guy. Now this is a new schema level privilege that we can give. You could see, I mean, you have to pick the privilege that you want to give. So as of now, what I have given is select any table. So select any table is a system privilege that has now been granted on the entire schema, I mean, granted to Gyan, so on behalf of HR scheme. All right. So each time HR comes up with a new table, Gyan is theoretically should be able to access the table that he introduces. And at the same time, even now, if HR is having 100 tables, GAN should have that access, I mean, to all those 100 tables. Let's verify that after switching our session to GAN. All right. So currently we have this error giving the error is HR employees is not accessible. Let's do a describe on HR employees. You can see now he can access it, right? Thanks to the uh, schema level privilege that was given to him from the HR schema. Okay, right. Hope that part is clear to you. All right. Now, what we will do is we'll just query this table for a bit, and then we'll use some of this content in order to discuss our application context. So what I would do is I will just do a select. Let me just pick the employee ID. I will pick maybe the first name. I will pick the last name from HR.employees. Now we sort it. Sort it by maybe first name. All right, so you can see now all the records are visible to Gayan because of that other privilege that we have given. Okay, right. So there are many employees, about 107 employees, right? Now what we're going to do is we'll just pick one of them and try to implement this application context, right? Okay. So um, so I was basically telling you that application context, right, is none other than a namespace, right? So this namespace can be implemented or can be populated only through a package. So we definitely, if you are introducing a context, then we need to introduce a package as well, right? So through the package only we can do population, I mean content population to this context. So I told you application context is a namespace, right? Where you can have your attributes and their corresponding values. There are different scopes when we are defining, when we are creating our application context, right? Some context can be initialized through local values like the table values, right? And so on. So those are objects, right? So through objects, you can set values. You can also have values initiated through external sources, like maybe if you are running on OCI, using OCI resources, you can populate this application context, or maybe like external to the database objects, you may also find things like job queue processes. Through that also, I mean job queues basically, and through that you should be able to populate the application context. And sometimes you might be able to initialize them globally as well. So globally means if you have maybe an LDAP server, through that you make use of that and have those values populated into your application context. So what you have to do is, what you have to understand here is application is none other than a namespace. That namespace will have attributes and values, right? Attributes and values. So those can be populated only through a package, right? So that is what we are going to discuss here. Okay, right. Now I will explain you about our context here. So why really these contexts will be useful? Why we need them? So when you have some variables or values stored, those can be reused. Those can be used even for later on, may not today, of course, but probably in our upcoming sessions, I will explain you about how this role level security, or we call them as VPD or virtual private databases, how we basically can make use of these namespace content as well in order to control record access. So those are some of the use cases that we may come across. At the same time, these values can be passed on to your applications, and through applications you can make them useful as well. Okay, right. Okay, so now what we will do is we are going to create an application context. But before that, again, I'm going to showcase you some values that you can derive from your default or pre-built application context. Okay, so earlier we used this application context called user env, right? So let me just query one more thing here. So select sys context. I told you always we make use of this function in order to retrieve them. Right, this is a function. Okay, now the single quote is not working. Let me copy it from somewhere else. So sys context. Now user env. User env is another pre-built application context. Maybe you would have seen this uh, somewhere, or you would have already used them as well. So user env is the application context. It has an attribute called session, or maybe we can try something like module. Sorry, single quote. Now another tip, not a tip, of course, a feature in 26 AI. If you're using functions, if you're trying out your functions, you don't need the from dual clause, right? Because it is not needed now, right? So fine. So you can see that accessing user env application context attribute called module, and it will return what module that we have. So similarly, I think if I'm right, let me just call IP address, IP underscore address. I think it is. Oops.
Can you try that left side Alt Shift? Then it will work. Just type
Alt shift, is it?
Alt Shift. Just that's enough for single quotes.
You said alt and okay.
Shift.
Alt shift, right? Okay, I'll try again in the
Yeah,
next attempt.
that's enough. Then try that single quotes.
No, it's still not working.
Okay,
Right.
I think
Yeah, I
there's
think there is a
another
problem
different.
with my keyboard because
Yeah,
even my up arrow key is not working, so I have to type that. I can't recall my
I see, Ganesh.
previous
Okay.
command. Yeah. So that part of the keyboard is having some problems. I think from today afternoon onwards, my headset is also got malfunctioned. So that is also on the same side. So it's a hardware problem, I think. Anyway, so you could see now, thank you, Asir, anyways. So you could see now the user env um, application context has session information like this, right? So the IP address, the module that you have logged in, so or the module that you are using, so all this has been captured. Okay, so likewise, there are many attributes that you can derive from the user env application context, right? So these are all pre-built. Earlier we tried sys session roles, right? So that was also another application context. So similarly, we have this. So not just the pre-built ones, we can have our own ones as well. All right. Okay. So taking this into account, now what we are going to do is we are going to implement an application context or a custom application context, for which I will switch my session to sys. Oops, again, back to the same thing. All right. Okay, fine. Okay, so we will write some coding here. I hope I will be able to get it right in the first attempt, but we will see. First of all, I told you if you are introducing application context, you have to have a name to the context and you need to specify a package, right? So this is a sample. Create context. Let's say context one using package. I'm just giving, okay. Okay, here you can say even initialize globally. All right. So what does initialize globally means? Okay, so this is like this context, right? Is going to have a package called package one. I told you a context requires a package. So we can only populate content to this context or to this namespace using this package, right? But the values will be coming from where? Places like an LDAP or some directory external directory, you should be able to populate values. That is the understanding here. Similarly, we can give create context. Let me give another name, context 2 using package 2. Accessed globally also. That's another option that we can give. So this is a different context. What's the difference between these two? Now, if you say access globally, what I'm trying to do is I'm going to have a application context created, but the values that I have in that namespace. Now, by default, the values of the namespace will go into your UGA, user global area. So that is part of your session, right? So you will have your namespace name, attributes, and the corresponding values. Okay. But that cannot be shared amongst multiple sessions in the same database. All right. But you can also have an application context created so that your content, basically the attributes, the corresponding values, can be stored in the SGA. So if it is available in the SGA, multiple sessions will be able to read the same values, right? Same attributes. Especially if you are running a rack environment and you want users from both instances access these same values, right? Theoretically, instead of having it in the UGA, you should be pushing those values into SGA, right? So SGA is shared global, right? So it is globally available for all users. So if that is the case, then you go with the access globally syntax. So this is for LDAP kind of directories. This one is making the content usable or content available, or not available values of the namespace available across the sessions. Got it? Right. So another important thing that you find here is the package name. Now, did I create a package before creating the context? Not really, right? But they didn't, or it didn't really give me an error also. So package can be introduced later on, right? So you don't need to have the package created before creating the context. So that is also not needed. So if I just do a describe on, I think it's a DBA context, you can just do maybe the namespace. So that namespace is the name of the context, context 1, context 2, and so on, right? And you can also check what is my package, because it is compulsory for you to have a package. And you can also figure out what's the type from DBA context. Okay, so quite a lot of contexts, application contexts are there. So things like HTTP. So these are all predefined because I did not create these contexts. So for Apex also, you have Apex $session. I think Asiri might have used this. Anyway, so I'm just saying that these are all predefined ones, right? So there are quite a lot. So along with that, we can also see the context we created, which is which can be populated only through package 1, and it is initialized globally. Similarly, context 2 we created with package 2, and it can be shared. It is the content, the attribute, and their values can be shared in your SGA, in the SGA. So many sessions can retrieve same values. All right. Okay. So the contexts that you create are independent from each other. So each context, each context attribute values. Let's say, for example, maybe I have in context 1, I have an attribute called age. I'm just saying, okay. So in context 2 also, you can have the same attribute called age, right? Because there are two different contexts. So therefore, you can have the same attribute names specified there, right? But remember, they can only be populated through this given package. Okay, so I don't need this context. I will drop them. Drop context 1. Similarly, I will drop context 2 as well. Okay, right. Now with that, we are going to start creating our context. the right context. Okay. So create context. I'll create a context called EMP context using pack1. That's my package name. So this syntax doesn't have any global or sorry, global definition, or like I didn't say whether it is globally accessed or initialized. So this is just local. So if it is local, I will probably be making use of my database objects to populate content in this application context called EMP context. Okay, right. The context is created, but I need to have my package created. So let's try to create the package now. So create or replace package pack1 is. So package, I will have a procedure created, procedure proc1. Okay. I'm just introducing the definitions or the procedures and functions within this. So let us have only this procedure for this package. So let me just close this and pack1. So the package is created. The package definition is created, but the package body is yet to be created. Okay, so now I'm going to create the package body. So create or replace package pack1. Oops, is procedure proc1 is okay. I'm setting up some variables. Variable emp id equals will be a number. It will have about let's say 5 or 10, whatever. And then we'll set variable. So the table, I'm just referring to the table as well. Table had columns like first name underscore last name, right? And those things. So let me just do fname. Fname is Vacha2. I'm referring to the employees table, which I showcased you earlier. Okay. And then we'll take another one called, okay, variable underscore last name is Vacha2. Okay. So let's begin the procedure. So I have these three variables defined. So what I want to do is I will do a select. I'm just going to copy paste from the actual table from the other session. I will select employee ID. I'll pick the first name. I will pick the last name. I will put them into my variables into emp ID, name, first name, and last name as well. Okay. From HR dot employees, where you just give a first name as well here. First name equals. So I'm going to take, I don't know whether you could recall. Let me just quickly show that as well so that you will not get confused over what I'm typing here. So this retrieval, right? So this retrieval had 107, 180, sorry, 107 number of rows. So the last name, I'm sorry, first name I'm picking here, Winston. So the Winston, how they have typed how the values are given. So W is capital and then the rest is simple, right? So if you are comparing that with first name, you need to make sure that you have the same format. So I'm going to switch back. Right. So first name would be something like init cap of sys context. Right. So now, again, I need to copy my single quote. Just do it again. Right. User env. So a familiar application context, right? And I'm going to pick the session user. Now, session user is another attribute that you have in the inside the user env application context, which will return the session user's name. So what I want to do is I want to log in as one of these users in the table records, right? And then see whether those values can be captured. So I'm checking this out. Okay, so one bracket is for this one, and then I need to have another bracket. Fine. Then what I'm going to do is dbms session set underscore context. You can see now I'm inserting the values. I'm populating my context values, right? So to which context I need to enter? To my bit challenging here without the single quote. My context name is going to be this one, right? So this is the new context I created. So unfortunately, I have to copy this once again. Okay. So the values. So let's just do this. We will give a name for the attribute. So we'll first take EMP-NO, EMP-ID, or something like that. Okay. So for this, so value that I want to insert. So this application context, this attribute, what is the value? So the value that I'm going to store here is going to be my var employee ID. That was the value that I have retrieved based on the query. All right. So that is done. Then run again because I want to set more. So here I will type, let's do something like this, full name. Oh, sorry. So again, the single quote is not there. So I'll copy these two. Okay, now full name is how do I get the full name? I can basically take the value of first name, that is var if name, right? And then we'll merge this with sorry. Again, I need to have a single quote here. Give a space, single quote, right? So that's how just I give a space. So single quote, and then we'll take last name. So that is last name. I hope this part is clear to you. I'm just merging these two and storing it as a value for full name. All right. So this is also done. So let's take another one. Here, I'm going to have another attribute called email. Okay, so for email, again, I will have to copy this. So I will do something like this. Let's take f name. Then we'll do another single quote. Dot. Another single quote. And pipe. Merge with the last name as well. Right. Okay. And then we'll merge that with another single quote. because we need to have some domain name as well. So I'm just giving a dummy name here at say abc.com, and just for the sake of storing this value. Okay, I hope I'm correct here. All right, so what I've done is I have just creating the package body, pack1 body, right? So this way I have basically inserted into my EMP context, application context, uh, three attributes: employee ID, full name, and email. Those are the values. So with that, I think I should be able to close my package. So I started with this begin. So let's do an end to my procedure one, another end to my package one as well. So this has an error. So let's try to edit this. Oops. Editing, we need to understand where we went wrong, right? So show error. Okay, so this is a problem with one line number 5. Why employee ID when expecting one of the following? Which disease? Okay. EMP ID is here, right? Okay, so anyone from the audience who could fix this problem for me? So the problem is here it says encounter the symbol WA EMP. Procedure proc 1 is when expecting another following. All right, so what can we do here? Procedure proc info. Have we done anything wrong? Create or replace package pack1 is, then the procedure name is, then the variable name. So I think the problem complaining about proc1 here is also correct, right? Okay, so let me try to edit once more. Not very sure of where we are going wrong. Okay, let me try to take this off. Let's try to put somewhere here and see. EMP ID is number.
B is missing again.
Oh, sorry. Where is that?
And in number, it's NUMBER.
Okay. Thank you. But I think still the problem is
Yeah, I'm also
some.
checking the can.
from a different language MLE. This is the first time I'm experiencing this one though.
Can you set long equal to because you can get the lengthy error message.
Okay, so somebody else was saying something as well.
Yeah, I told that EC is there, right? Create or replace package one as procedure. Is it correct?
That's also that's another way as well.
Both are correct.
When expecting one of the following language.
Can you set long equal what long equal 1,000 or something? Yeah. Not I don't remember. Let me check. What a session or something.
Long. No.
Wait.
When expecting one of the following. Oh no. So create or replace package pack one is procedure pack one. So as or is anything you can use here. That's not a problem. Ah, okay. I think I found the problem. This is just a name, right? So you have to have it's a package body. That
Yep.
may be this. Let's try it again. Oops. Try again. Show error. Okay, now it says compilation unit analysis terminated. Cannot compile body of without its specification.
Yeah.
Pack one
First,
is
you have to create the specification. Yes.
I created pack one. Just give me a minute. So here we created create or replace package pack one. Procedure proc one. Package.
That is correct.
That's correct, right? So let me just run through this one. Create or replace package body pack one. That's also correct, no?
You don't need to have a is after that time. Believe.
Here.
Yeah. It's required. It's required. This is required.
Yeah. Create or replace package body pack one is create or replace package body procedure proc one. Okay, so let's try this one. Because it might be the reason we were trying with this before as well.
Yeah, because pack one is replaced by that error one.
Error, no? Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. Yeah. That might be the reason. So I'm going to recall this.
Yeah.
Is and we'll put and pack one. All right, got created. So let's try to take this once more. begin. All right. So at last we managed to get the package going. So now we have the package created. The package body is also created. Now we need to have this procedure executed, right? So you can manually execute it as well. But what I thought was to make things a little easy, we'll try to run it soon as somebody logs in. Okay, so I'm going to create a trigger, create or replace trigger. So just trig one, and we'll just do a begin here. We'll run our package is pack1 and proc1, right? So that's the procedure that we have to run as well. Sorry. Again, I think I made a mistake here. Always the triggers should fire on a particular triggering activity. So after log on database, then we'll begin, and then we'll run pack1 dot. Just a second. So it's pack1 pack1 dot proc1. So what happens here is that if this gets created properly, end trigger one. All right. So trigger is also got created. So anyone who gets connected to the database, so this will fire, right? And that will call, now the package will be called, right? So I told you the package is the only place where you can have your context populated. So with that, the content will be populated based on the current user, right? User session. So to make things very clear, I'm going to introduce grant create session to. So I think I'm just checking the username from here. There's the record called Winston, which I showcased or showed you earlier. So I'm granting the session to Winston. I'm introducing this new user to the database. Create session to Winston identified by Oracle. I'm just giving the password as Oracle. So I have to also grant the selectability of the table. Grant select on HR dot employees to Winston. All right. Because Winston should have the accessibility to that table as well. Because the package basically refers to the employees table, right? So it is calling the employees table as well. So therefore, this user should have access to that. Okay, so let's switch our session quickly to the other window. I will exit from here. SQL plus HR, sorry, not HR, it is Winston, right? So I have the Winston user here at free PDB1. Password is Oracle, right? First, we'll use our conventional application context. Select sys context. Okay, I need the single quote once again, so I'll get it from somewhere here. Just a second. Okay. User EP. Now the single quote is working. User env. We'll check the session user. So you can see that currently we have logged in as, or basically the session user is reported as Winston. All right. Now having this in mind, we'll now try to query our custom application context as well, and in order to see the figures that the package had got populated. I mean, through package that had got populated. Okay, so we'll just do select sys context, the usual function, and we'll take our application context name. I'm going to take it from the other window. So we created the application context as EMP context. So I'm going to copy that here. Right, and then I will take that attribute name called EMP ID. We'll call it EMP number or EMP ID. Then we'll take the same figure here, and then we had full name, right? Full name. We'll call that as full name, or just in the just name. And we'll also call the same thing. And this time we will call the, I'm just taking the attribute, the right name that we have given. It was given as email. I'm going to just copy paste it here. So hope you can remember when we were creating the context, we had the attributes given as full name, EMP ID, full name, and email as email. All right. So you can now see the figures. Employee ID is reported as 180. The name has been given as Winston Taylor. And then you can see the name goes as winston.taylor at abc.com. All right. So this is the usage of the application context, or the, so I mean, we created a very small one, which basically got triggered when Winston got logged in or logged into the database. So a trigger got fired in order to execute that package, pack1, which we had a procedure in that, which is proc1. So through that package only, we managed to populate the attributes such as full name, employee ID, and email. And you can now see the values are available here for you to use, right? So that is what I mean. When I say application context, these are more useful for your applications to derive. And as I was telling before, this is a local context. So the values here that you find are getting stored in your UGA, the session of Winston, right? But then if you are planning these values to be shared across the users, so across the database, then you would have to, when you are creating your context, you have to say accessed globally, right? So when you use that syntax, which I showed you earlier, through that you should be able to make it available for all the sessions. So if you store a value, that value will be visible to all the users as well. So I mean, so this is what I wanted to discuss with you today. But before we wind up, I will just run through the presentation as well, and then we will see what more information it has. Okay, just give me a second to switch to my presentation as well. Right, I'll just take it to the top. Okay, so our main focus today was on the application context, and we had a understanding about the initially the roles, how you set roles, and then once you set roles, what happens if you set your, what happens if you set a default role, and the other roles won't be active at the same time. So we had that practical error as well, or problem as well, when we granted that new role, a DB developer role, and the effectiveness was not there. But then to find out that we had a different role made as the default role, those roles were revoked. So he had no privilege of getting connected to the database. So even though a role has been granted, if it is not a default role, and if those privileges within that role cannot be made active to this user, right? So then we came on to understand the schema privileges. So you can now give schema level privileges rather than going into individual object. Okay, then we talked about this default and non-default rows. We had a demonstration also on that. And then we discussed about what an application context is, right? I told you it's a namespace. And so it has read-only data. So the value that you have are not going to be amended or anything. You just keep on, you can populate them, okay? And then it can only be populated through a package. So that's why we are introducing, when we are creating a application context, we need to specify a package name as well. Again, package may not exist at the time of application context creation, but it can be introduced later on. So these are some of the usages of application context for authorization purpose, to figure out who this user is, and then accordingly you take actions. And I told you about VPD, or virtual private database. Role level security, if you want to provide, you can capture a single record, because now if you take a role level privileges or fine-grained access control through VPD, virtual private database, basically what happens is that when you run a command, it adds a where clause in order to filter. So that is something that you don't do, but the policy behind the scene will apply a particular rule. So that rule will be enforced through a where condition. So an implicit where condition which you can't see, which you don't type, but it happens automatically. So for that, we can pass variables through application context, right? And then, of course, we understood what setting attributes is. Right. So the sources of application context, you can take it from your own objects. That is the local, which we demonstrated, which we carried out with the Winston scenario. And then we have the external entity. So where you have to say initialized externally. If you use that, that means we are getting resource attributes populated through external resources such as OCI or job events, right? So something like that. And then we can also do global context coming from uh, directory services. Then you have to say initialize globally. All right. Similarly, if you're going with accessibility, you have the local accessibility, and you can also have the global accessibility, where you have, when you are creating the context, you have to mention that it can be accessed globally, right? So I told you, then your context attributes and the corresponding values will go into the SGA, so that it will be shared across all the sessions in the database. So the user env, we came across certain information. We extracted a few information using the syscontext function. This is a pre-built namespace in the database. I think we accessed all this information. I mean, all these attributes we didn't try, but we tried the IP address. We tried the session user, right, and the module and so on. So likewise, there are a few more as well that can be seen from the namespace user env or application context, right? So it can be accessed through the function syscontext. And so that is where we did a demonstration for application context. So that brings us to the end of the session. Now the forum is open for questions if you all have.
Guys, any questions? If you don't have a question, I want to tell you one thing, because throughout these sessions, because throughout these sessions, we are trying to highlight most uncommon areas, because we don't need to tell you about the common thing in throughout these what do you call these sessions, because you know that this application context can when we are going to the some customer sites, some people are struggling with that some basic information. If I say that organization name, they execute that query for million times in the day for take that organization name, but we can put it into the application context kind of a thing to get that organization names. That is because it won't query the tables. It is not required to go and read the data files. So there are so many things that you can use this application context and optimize your applications. Am I correct, Gan?
Yeah, so absolutely. So other thing, Asari, is that I haven't seen people making use of this application context as well. I think
Definitely,
even
Gan.
yeah, so I think maybe in very rare occasions, people might be accessing this user env application context, which is the pre-built one. But again, when they're using it also, I don't know whether they really know about what they're doing.
Yep.
So it's a very untouched area, I think, because to be honest with you, in this entire Oracle life of mine, I haven't come across anyone who had properly not seen actually someone who had properly using application context.
You have a mammoth, but you don't use it.
Yep. So that's the thing. So when you have features, you need to use it. Otherwise, you won't be able to justify your investment.
Yep.
So even these small things like now I told you about not needing to use from dual, right? So those might be very small things, but then it is easy, right? So making things making life easy.
Yep.
Right. So I think we have taken a bit more time also today because of the troubleshooting. I think that was also a good exercise for you all to figure out how we could do error tracking as well.
Yeah, Dinido, you can stop the recording.